Dust rose like ghosts across the ruined market square when the first shot tore through the silence. Layla didn't flinch. She had already died once. At least that's what everyone believed. The men who left her bleeding beneath the broken archway 3 years ago had buried her in an unmarked grave of lies, convinced no one crawls back from that kind of darkness. But there she stood again, hood drawn, eyes calm, a scar tracing her temple like a signature carved by fate. The smell of gunpowder drifted through the air, sharp, metallic, and familiar. Her pulse didn't quicken. It steadied. Around her, chaos unfolded, civilians running, boots echoing off the stone. Yet Layla moved through it, as if through memory itself. Each heartbeat a drumbeat counting backward from 72 hours. The clock had begun. They thought they'd erased her, but ghosts don't vanish. They return. Only 3 people in the entire region still knew her real name. To the rest, she was Rumor, the widow of Al-Qadar, the woman who once commanded a special unit during the final siege. Her team had saved villages no one remembers and paid for it in blood. She was the last one breathing when the betrayal came. That betrayal had a face. Karim Qasim, a colonel who traded his soldiers' coordinates to mercenaries for a suitcase of foreign currency and safe passage out. When Layla uncovered it, he silenced everyone. Her squad first, her last. They left her under the shattered walls of Al-Qadar, a bullet through the lung, her own rifle beside her to make it look like desertion. And the world moved on. For 3 years she drifted through border towns, nameless, faceless. The wound had healed, but the silence inside her had not. There were nights when the desert wind whispered in her ear, naming each of her fallen brothers and sisters one by one. It wasn't vengeance that kept her alive. It was unfinished duty. Someone once told her, a soldier dies twice. Once when her heart stops, and again when her name is forgotten. She refused the second death. Now she walked through a city rebuilt over the bones of its past. Bazaars gleamed with glass and chrome, but if you pressed your ear to the ground, you could still hear the old war crying beneath. Karim had become a minister now, guarded, polished, untouchable. 23 men had helped him climb there. Layla had their names. She would cross them out, one by one, before the 72nd hour burned out. Her first target was an arms broker named Hamid al-Rauf, a man with smooth words and the conscience of sand. He sat in a cafe that smelled of cardamom and oil, boasting of contracts that kept the new government armed. Layla slipped inside, blending with the market crowd. The scent of roasted coffee wrapped the air, the chatter drowned beneath her quiet steps. She did not carry a rifle anymore. Just a small black notebook and the will of the dead. She sat 2 tables away, ordered tea, and waited. Hamid laughed, gesturing with his gold-ringed hands. When the waiter brought her drink, she whispered a single sentence, a phrase only soldiers of the old Al-Qadar unit would understand. Tell him the sand remembers. The waiter blinked, delivered it exactly as spoken. Hamid froze mid-laughter, eyes darting toward her. By the time he rose, she was gone. 10 minutes later, the car outside his cafe ignited. No flames, just a quiet hiss and a bloom of white smoke. Hamid survived, gasping in the street, but his files, his devices, his safe, all erased. Message delivered. Name crossed. By nightfall, Layla was gone again, a shadow between borders. She left no corpses. Only silence, exposure, justice whispered instead of shouted. Her method wasn't murder, it was revelation. Every man she targeted collapsed under the weight of his own secrets leaking into daylight. One was found confessing to war crimes on live television, hands trembling. Another fled across the border and vanished into the mountains. Each fall was another heartbeat for her lost squad. As the hours ticked, news networks buzzed. Unknown operative dismantling high-level corruption ring. Government spokesmen denied everything, but fear walked their corridors now. Karim knew. He recognized the pattern, the precision of it, the quiet dignity. He knew the ghost had returned. On the second night, a storm rolled in from the desert. Thunder bruised the horizon. Lightning flickered over the capital's skyline. Layla stood on the rooftop of an abandoned embassy, wind whipping her scarf. Rain washed over her scars, over the sand-colored uniform hidden beneath a civilian coat. Below, the city pulsed with electricity and greed. Her next target was Rashid Khalaf, intelligence director, architect of the cover-up that buried her unit. She watched his convoy through binoculars, headlights slicing through rain. She remembered his face the day he signed their deaths with a single pen stroke. His words still echoed. Collateral decisions must remain buried. She could end him here. But that wasn't her justice. She had learned long ago that death is easy. Exposure is harder. She waited until his car reached the checkpoint, one she had already infiltrated. A single flash drive planted in the security server began streaming Rashid's private archive to every network in the capital. Reports, payments, coded directives, all unraveling live before the public eye. When his car stopped, he looked up at the nearest billboard. His own signature stared back at him under the words "War for Profit." The crowd around the checkpoint turned to look at him. In that moment, power deserted him. From the shadows of the rooftop, Layla whispered softly, "For every voice you buried." Then she walked away, letting the rain swallow her. By dawn, 9 names were gone, 61 hours remained. Across the ministries, panic spread. Security units combed the city. Kareem's advisors urged him to flee, but he refused. "She's one woman," he said, "and one woman cannot undo an empire." But his voice trembled. He knew better than anyone. Layla never fought like others. She moved through silence, and silence frightened men more than bullets. In the labyrinth of the old city, Layla found refuge in a clinic once run by her teammate Amina. The walls still smelled of antiseptic and jasmine soap. It was there she allowed herself to rest, if only for an hour. She stared at her reflection in a cracked mirror. The scar, the tired eyes, the steel beneath both. She wondered if vengeance could ever resurrect the dead, if duty could replace peace. But every time she closed her eyes, she saw her comrades' faces. The moment the explosion lit the sky, their voices shouting through static, she owed them an ending. When the government offered a bounty for her capture, civilians began whispering legends. Some said she was a ghost sent by the spirits of the fallen. Others swore she was a Western assassin hired by the opposition. Only the old veterans in the villages knew the truth. They prayed quietly at dawn. Let her finish it, 40 hours left. The 20th name fell in the desert outside Al-Qadar, the very place where she had been left for dead. The wind howled through the ruins as if remembering. She stood there at dusk, the horizon bleeding orange, and placed 20 small stones in a line on the sand. Each stone bore an initial carved by her blade. Her voice was steady, her heart calm. The last 3 stones remained blank. They belonged to Kareem and his 2 guards, men who had dragged her body years ago, laughing that no one would find her. She did not sleep that night. Instead, she wrote in her notebook, the last entry, "Justice is not revenge, justice is remembrance." Then she walked toward the city. The final day dawned golden and cruel. The capital buzzed under martial law. Posters bearing her silhouette hung on every wall. Soldiers searched buses, checkpoints, alleyways.